Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Future of BizTech. I'm your host, JC Granger. I have another fantastic guest with me on the show today. And listen, if you end up loving this episode, please show your love and appreciation by following this podcast wherever you're listening and give it a 5-star review. Put some nice comments behind it because that is how other techies like you and I find cool podcasts like this. And today I had the absolute pleasure of interviewing the founder and CEO of Givz.com with a Z at the end, Andrew Forman. Andrew, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what is it that Givz does?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, JC. This is exciting. And yeah, to give you a bit of background, what about me, about what does Givz do? So on my end, let's see where to even start. I did 6 years of investment banking. I'll give you the real quick rundown. 6 years of investment banking, also founded a nonprofit during that time. So kind of separated the pay the bills and have some sort of impact type of deal. Went back to business school, attended HBS for 2 years and came out of Boston basically saying, okay, I want to start my own company that's going to have both this double bottom line type of activity, right? Where it's like, hey, this is good for the world, but it's also good for the investors and shareholders in the company. And so how do you make that happen? And so Givz is doing that on a couple of different levels. And so the first thing that we do is we allow brands to run donation-based incentives. So the hypothesis is that brands are trying to get away from discounts as much as possible. The consumer's really wisening up, and at the end of the day, discounts, while they still drive short-term sales, people know that they're not like getting this amazing deal. They're actually just paying for a lower quality product. And that, something that's $200 discounted to $100 really should just cost $100 in the first place. Of course, they'd rather pay $100 than $200, but if they will definitely pay $200 for an item that should be worth $200. And so that is kind of the rub that brands are kind of running up against discounting here, where they're like, hey, like we can't just mark it up and knock down the discount piece, because then we're going to have to do that for the rest of time. And so why don't we just sell our goods at full price for what they actually should be worth and the quality that they're manufactured at? And then how do we incentivize people? If we're not going to use discounts, how do we incentivize people to actually care and buy right now? And that's starting to come across as, hey, social impact is extremely important here, but everybody cares about different things. So how do you do it? You use donation incentives. You say, hey, buy today. You're going to get $10 to give to any charity you want if you buy right now. And we make that really easy for any brand to be able to do that.
So that's cool. I mean, that's one thing that I took a lot of interest in this when I heard about your company kind of coming through the pipeline, so to speak here. But tell us how, like an e-commerce brand, like how does it work for them when they are plugging into your system? Like what does that look like in its real nature, right? So they have a product, it's $100, and they say if $20 of that is going to go to a charity you pick, like how does it look in real time? How is the user experience even understanding or knowing that they're giving while buying?
Yeah, so it manifests itself anywhere that and the reason I always draw the comparison to discounts, because anywhere you would find out about a discount code is the same way that you'd find out that you're going to get money to give to a charity when you buy this product, right? So the banner on top of the site, spend $300 or more on our site, we'll give you $30 to give to a charity of your choice. It comes in a banner. We've had companies do a bunch of social posts around this. We've had companies talk about it in their emails, and the footer of every email, don't forget, when you spend over $200, you get $20 to give to a charity of your choice.
Does it allow the user to pick the charity? Does it like take them to another screen and say, like, now pick the charity you want to send that $30 to or whatever?
Yes, that's actually embedded. So our tech gets embedded in the thank you confirmation page. So after somebody makes a purchase, so very importantly, you don't want, from a user experience standpoint, you don't want to take people away or make people think about what charity they want to support individually just yet until they've made the purchase. Make the purchase, know that you're going to get, all that upfront stuff, know that you're going to get money to give to a charity of your choice. And that actually we've shown enhances their ability to say, yes, I want to buy this right now. Do I really need another pair of $400 shoes? I don't know, but I'm going to get $40 to give to charity. Boom, I do it. Right. And so
Cool.
that is that psychology piece up front is what we're focused on. But in terms of what you're asking, okay, how does it actually work? Right after you make the purchase, embedded on the thank you confirmation page, you now have $40 to give to whatever charity you care about. And you'll see highlighted charities that the brand cares about that you can easily choose, or you can go in and search, and we have over 174,000 different charities that people could choose from.
That's really cool. Okay, see that I like that because that's very engaging with the user experience. And you know, you got what was the name of the company? Was it Tom's? What was the one where it was like buy a pair, give a pair? Like who started that?
Tom's, yeah. So that's exactly right. It was Tom's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Tom's,
yeah. They kind of broke the mold, or created, I should say, more or less on that giving aspect, and we all saw the results of that, right? It was really good. But this is interesting because it allows a little more user engagement, other than just knowing that it's going to go somewhere. You get to actually decide and pick, which is pretty cool.
Well, and exactly. And if you actually follow Tom's journey all the way through, it's quite interesting. And so we talk about it as Tom's 2.0 because Tom's actually had to do a 2.0. So it was really good in the beginning, and everybody remembers Tom's like, oh man, they were taking off like wildfire. You buy a pair of shoes, they give a pair of shoes, and they were maniacal on the good end about giving a pair of shoes, which was great. But they kept giving pairs of shoes to this one specific charity or place, and that place eventually they did so well that place like didn't really need any more shoes. And so they kind of ran into this like problem where they were just like, well, we said we were going to do it, we have to do it. So they just kept sending shoes. They were like, please stop sending shoes. And then actually ended up being like a news story. And and then ultimately, Tom's had to like file for bankruptcy and like and kind of like revamp their systems. And so they came out Tom's 2.0, and now if you buy Tom's, they actually do sort of what we're talking about here. They give you 6 choices, like, do you want to send a pair of shoes to someone, or like, or 5 other things, right? And so they've already kind of come across to what we're talking about. We're trying to bring that philosophy to everybody, but really make it personalized, right? So the 6 choices, to me, it's a start, it's a good thing. But at the end of the day, I have a friend who runs a charity that she works extremely hard on. If I buy a pair of Tom's shoes and I could donate $20 to her charity, that would be meaningful to me, and therefore a whole lot better for Tom's at the end of the day.
Well, that's pretty cool. So, I'm a marketing guy, so I always like to ask a little bit about how are you getting the word out about Givz? I mean, you're on the podcast, so okay, so PR check, right? Yep. What else are you guys doing internally to go after, and what brands specifically? You're going after big giant ones? You're going after mom and pops? Like, what's the target and how you getting there?
Yeah, we've part of the issue, I think, on our marketing side is that we've had success across the board, right? We've had success across the board. And so honing in on that, like who is the exact perfect customer for us, has been very difficult. We've got H&M as our largest client. We've got a ton of brands that you've never heard of as small clients, right? And so how do you focus, like, well, if we get a bunch more H&Ms, we should really focus there, but those are hard, long enterprise sales cycles. How do you do that? For us, we really invested in the Shopify ecosystem, and we recognized pretty quick that while we could get a ton of these long tail Shopify stores, the larger Shopify stores are really where we wanted to focus, Shopify Plus. And we're actually now about to roll out a Shopify POS integration that is going to be really interesting for in-store shopping. So allowing people in store, the store can put up a sign saying, hey, when you spend over $50 today, you get $5 to give to a charity of your choice.
And then like the little logos will pop up on the screen or something. You can just tap it, kind of thing.
Exactly. Awesome. So that's something that we're really excited about, also because it is hopefully going to get us exposure to some larger Shopify brands that already are going to have store presence, et cetera, et cetera. So that type of, physical retail presence. So that's one thing that we're excited about. There's a bunch of different conferences that we think about and try to attend. and then it's really, but the way we've grown to date is really word of mouth. It's hard to describe what it is that we do. So from a marketing perspective, I wish I would have invested in brand marketing a bit more earlier. It is hard to, I mean, not only brand marketing, but also product marketing. Like, what is it that we do? And people are like, oh, you guys do like roundup stuff. It's like, no, we don't do
Yeah,
roundup stuff.
see, I can
Not
see
at
where
all.
somebody would think it's Roundup because that's another model that's pretty popular, right?
It's even more popular, I'd say, right?
Yeah.
But I'd say it's way less effective. So it's killer on two fronts. People are like, oh, I tried that Roundup stuff, it doesn't work. I'm like, that makes sense. Roundup doesn't have, it doesn't make sense. Roundup, if you think about it, right? Like somebody goes into, I use the in-store example of CVS here in New York. Somebody says, oh, like I wanted to go buy toothpaste at CVS. And so you're going to go in, you're going to spend whatever it is, $5.27 on toothpaste. Okay, great. So you go in, you're going to buy your toothpaste, you go, you check out, they're like, hey, do you want to donate an extra 73 cents to this charity that we've chosen for you that you probably don't really care about, but don't hate? I mean, it's probably something
Yeah,
like
sure, why not?
you know, you're like, okay, I don't know, like how many people are looking at me in line? Like, do I really, do I really want to do this? They're asking you for me for my own money now. And I'm like, sure, or no. And either way, if I say yes, like, man, I should have just like went on Amazon and used Amazon Smile or something. And like, wouldn't cost me anything. Or if I said no, now I'm like walking around feeling bad. No, I should have done
Yeah,
it.
but you can't tell them you hate puppies, right? Like,
Yeah. So like that does not have good business implications for CVS. What I like about it is that a lot of people end up saying yes for just, I don't know, for different reasons, but it gets a lot of money to that one charity. But they certainly don't have a better relationship with CVS because of it. Nobody's like, oh, like,
Yeah,
thank
it
you.
it, it
Yes.
inspires guilt rather than a positive emotion where you felt like you've done something good because you had choice. Choice is really the foundation of any,
Totally.
positive emotion after the fact, right? It's like knowing
Totally.
that you got to do it, right? And they just it's like they handed you a 20 and said, where do you want that 20 to go? And you're like, oh, I want it to go there. It's not my
Yeah.
20, it's your 20, so yeah.
Exactly. So you get the pot. So you're building that up. So for me, the flip side of that would be the Givz version of that is CVS says you walk into CVS, you see a sign that says, hey, spend $50 or more today in CVS. We'll give you $5. We'll hand you $5 to give to whatever charity you want. So now you go into the store, you're like, oh, I was going to buy toothpaste. All right, I'm $5.27 of the way there. But you know what? I actually needed all this stuff and this stuff. All of a sudden, I've spent $70 and I go check out and I'm like, okay, I spent $70. They're like, okay, great. Here's $5 to give to whatever charity you want. They flip the screen around and you like choose a charity. And now you feel great. Maybe you just, last night had a charity event that you were like at or something, and you have friends that have charities, you have family members that have charities, whatever it may be, you're going to give it to their charity. You're gonna be like, this is what I truly care about. And now CVS has that information as well. So the next time they go to email you, they're going to say, hey, we know you care about this particular charity. Come back, spend $100 this time, and we'll give you $10 more to give to that charity. And you're like, okay. So that is what we're trying to build.
So yeah, I know you touched on it a little bit when we first started, but what inspired you to create this, right? I mean, like, I get the idea of saying I want to create something that can also help give back, but why, right? Like, I mean, and I don't mean that in some nihilistic way, like, why does anyone care? I just mean, did something happen? Did you go through something, or did you see things in the industry that you hated and you're like, this is bullshit, we need to make this better? I mean, what was that moment where you're like, this is the idea, I'm not just going to make an e-commerce SaaS platform, I'm going to make one that does this in particular?
Yeah, for me, so I was the treasurer of a nonprofit, and I had friends who were working at retail companies, and we were trying to make this partnership work, and it was just so much harder than it should have been. So much red tape, so much internal bureaucracy on top of legal bureaucracy that I was like, man, this is nuts. There has to be a better way. And like, our industry must be shifting towards how do nonprofits and corporations work together, because they each have something that the other wants, right? Like there's a symbiotic relationship to be struck there. And for me, I just felt if I could build a really big business around that hypothesis, that would be the home run. And so I spent, my time in business school trying to figure out, where does that intersection make sense? And that's ultimately where we shook out. It was a long road to get here. My first idea was a Venmo for charitable giving, and it was direct to consumer, everybody downloading an app to donate to a charity of your choice. That didn't work out, and we pivoted into this. And I think this is what we should have been doing the whole time. Obviously, I wish I had known, but this is where it was meant to be. And now, as we think about that second piece, not only so there's an increase in average order value, or an increase in conversion rate, increase in sales, however way you want to slice it when you use Givz now as a e-commerce store, but I'm already getting pressure from both the stores as well as the charities to be more connected. So, when you spend that $50 or more at CVS, for example, and they spin it around, which charities show up? Well, there should be a marketplace there where the charities that show up are actually posting to people, hey, go shop at CVS, spend $50 or more, get the $5 and give it to us, because you have choice, you have agency. You, in this model, as the end consumer, you have the power to donate to whatever charity you want. And so charities should be talking about the fact that that's out there, and the brands would obviously love that. And there's your flywheel.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. If I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, kind of thing. Like, we all wish we had a time machine, right? So,
Totally.
but this is where you're at. You're here now, and that's what matters. All right. So, speaking of time machines, let's pivot towards the future, right? The future of biz tech. We got to talk about the future. So, first question is, where do you see your industry going? So, kind of maybe and I guess for that, you're kind of in the middle of two industries, right? You're in kind of the nonprofit giving platform industry, but then you're also in an e-commerce SaaS industry. Where do you see these industries going in the next maybe 5 or 10 years, whether it be through technology, legislation, culture, just where you plus your competitors, like, where is this heading?
And I mean, the hypothesis for me has always been that these two worlds are going to collide, right? Like, commerce and social impact are going in the same direction and on a crash course, in terms of people care about what's behind their purchase these days. It did not used to be the case. My parents did not care, right? Like that, they really didn't. They're like, whatever is the lowest price for the best quality stuff, like that's it. I think there's still a little bit of that, but there's definitely like, hey, like, how did this get made now, right? Like, was it ethically sourced? Was it, is this going to hurt the environment if people keep buying it this way? These are real questions now that companies have to answer, and the younger generations especially are starting to say, no, we're not going to buy something that is unethically sourced. We're not going to do something that's bad for the environment over and over again. So we need to start listening to this type of thing, right? And so for me, they are going together culturally. It's going to be, you buy whatever you're buying, any physical and goods that you're buying, and even virtual goods, if you're talking about the metaverse and everything like that. Why are people buying skins in the metaverse? Why are people buying sweatshirts in real life that have particular sayings on them or particular designs? It's because they want to signal. It's all about signaling who you are as a person, and more people want to signal, hey, I care about this world that we all live in together. And I think that's where it is heading. So as much as I like to say, yeah, I do this because we've sent $2 million to charity and we want to send $1 billion to charity. We do, and we will. But I also think this is where the world is actually moving, and therefore this is where the money's going to be.
Perfect. No, that I can see, and that I can agree with. Now let's talk about your company, right? My audience likes to get the inside track on some new stuff. So what do you got coming down the pipeline here? I mean, where's Givz going specifically? Maybe roadmap style features, or just any general shifts or direction?
So two big things that we have coming. One is that POS piece that we're really looking at. So point of sale for Shopify. We're excited on that front. Something that's even more maybe techie and consumer and a bit more of a shift that we're excited about is we're in building out our offering in our platform. We had the Shopify integration, and then we wanted to build like a platform agnostic API so that any company could use us, right? And then as we've built this out and we're going through the final touches of like, hey, here's the full platform. It's beautiful. You can, any brand can now say, all right, here, I want to create a $10 to give to charity link. Boom, go. We have a jewelry store who wants to create $100 links, because if people spend over $1,200 at their store, they're going to get $100 to give to charity. Great. You can log in, create those links, no problem. And one of our engineers added a share button on there, right? And he was like, maybe, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. Like a jewelry store creates $100 link. They don't want to share that all over the place on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, because then people are going to be donating without having made the purchase. That needs to be guarded, But then I took a step back and I was like, wait a second, that's actually interesting if we open it up back to individuals. So I do get this from my friends all the time where they're like, hey, like I want to donate $100. I don't know where to donate that. And so if we actually open that feature up to everybody, and we're about to do this, in the coming months, where we open up to everybody and put that share button on there. So I'm really glad he did this, where you set a limit. You say, hey, I want to donate $100. I want to donate it in $5 increments. And my friends or followers or whatever it may be, tell me where this should go. And so create, a link that says the first 20 people that click on this link, allocate $5 to the charity that you care about most. And I want to support my friends. And so that's a feature that we're rolling out here in relatively short order that we are excited about.
Very cool. Awesome. All right. Well, let me ask you, I want to switch to a personal question. So I asked this to some of my guests. What did you want to do when you were a kid? What did you want to be when you grew up? And then is this it? Or if not, how did it get here?
Yeah. I mean, so when I was a kid growing up, I wanted to play football professionally, obviously, right? Like that was that was the childhood dream. And then as I got older and realized that was not going to happen, I thought about, all right, what is it that you want to be when you grow up? I loved math and numbers. So I was like, all right, I could be a math teacher, was like, kind of the next, and I was like, okay, but I don't know. I don't know that I want to, my retirement plan still, once I'm unable to be running around and pounding the pavement all day, every day, I will retire and become a math teacher. That is something that I want to do at some point. But I think at the end of the day, once I gave up on the football dream, I really didn't know. And so I went into investment banking because that was the, opportunity in my mind that opened the most amount of doors. You could kind of do anything from there, and had a good base of salary.
Nice. Well, so listen, since you're a young entrepreneur, what is the best piece of advice you've ever been given on your journey through all this? Or what have you learned that you think would be the best piece of advice you could give?
Yeah. I mean, I think for best piece of advice I've been given, man, there's been so much. It's so hard to so much good advice, so much bad advice. But I think the most important piece is, if you're an entrepreneur, then your business revolves around you. You can't separate in the beginning. You can't separate out, I think in the beginning, I was really trying to be like super objective and analytical about everything. And there's just nothing to analyze in the beginning. And people are betting on you as the CEO, as the founder, to make this thing go. So you have to bet on you and trust yourself and make split second decisions and just go and run with them, understanding, that some of them are going to be wrong, some of them are going to be right. You'll adjust as you go along, but you have to just put one foot in front of the other and sprint. And you have to go as fast as you can, and just trust yourself, and don't hold yourself to too high of a standard. Just trust yourself that you're not sure what the right decision is. You're going to make this decision. You're going to make the right decision 70% of the time. Great. Perfect. Let's go. Do it.
Don't just launch, right? You don't have to be perfect. You'll figure it out.
Oh, definitely don't have to be perfect. Perfection is the enemy of progress, right? Like that is, can't be perfect.
True. How can people reach your company, like website style? And then also, how could they reach you individually if they have maybe some bigger deals in the works that they get?
Yeah. So the website is Givz, Givz.com. You can chat with me or remember the team there. You can also book my calendar there. And then online, I'm on LinkedIn. I do get a ton of whatever stuff there. So if you have something, just put a message in there, and I'm happy to chat that you heard on this podcast, and I will immediately accept and chat. But also on Twitter, Forman22, not super active these days, but just kind of monitoring what's going on.
Perfect. And listen, for everyone out there, again, if you liked what you heard today, be sure to subscribe to this podcast and give it a 5-star rating, preferably with some writing behind it, so other techies like us can find and enjoy learning about all these amazing and helpful B2B softwares on the market today, just like Givz.com. Andrew, thank you so much again for being on the show, and I really appreciate you coming on, and I think what you're doing out there is great, and I wish you the best of luck with it.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.